My name is Ariam. Hi. um, some of us in this room know what it's like to take care of a family member, and chances are some of us will one day. My name is Ariam, and I've spent the past 16 months listening to the joys and aches of caretakers, of people with disabilities. And one thing I know for certain is that people in this community are resilient, compassionate, and loving. A lot of their profiles are very similar. These individuals are working middle-aged women representing the African, Caribbean, and Asian diaspora. And they have all, in one way or another, dealt with stigma, social isolation, and stress. Around this time last year, I remember, give me 1 second. Okay. Around this time last year, I remember being a fly on the wall at IEP meetings that demystified the process, or what people in the special education field know as the individual education plan, which is a legal document that every student with a recorded disability has to ensure that he or she receives the best possible education. I use technology as a tool to surface what types of conversations families were having about their loved ones on closed Facebook groups. And I came across everything from picking out the best food for your children to how to travel safely with your children and what sorts of therapies are available to them. This past summer, I was invited to speak to families of East African origin about my personal connection to caregiving, and I recently met a woman from Long Island who was a full-time school teacher until she had to leave work to become a stay-at-home mom to her son, Matthew. Matthew has autism, and ever since, she has found meaning in blogging about her life as a special needs parent. I saw every conversation as an opportunity to create a new relationship with caregivers or build on an existing one. And over time, I learned that people in this community are the experts of their own lived experiences. But supporting the needs of caretakers also meant that I had to look into what type of research was already done on this community. Earlier this year, the ARC and the National Center for Children in Poverty interviewed 90 caretakers of people from 4 states. It's very important to note the states. It's New York, New Jersey, North Carolina, and California, which by law allows caretakers to take time, or employees who work in these states to take time off of work, be paid for their time away from their work duties, and still keep their job. But what fascinated me about this survey was learning that while 62% of people have taken a leave of absence to take care of a family member, only 25% have done the same thing for themselves. To me, this reflects the notion that caregivers are often willing to put their own health at risk to support the well-being of another individual. And this is not the world I want to live in. I want to live in a world where everyone, but especially caregivers, understand that they deserve care too and prioritize self-care. I took one huge step toward this vision and co-created a free 60-minute workshop to empower people of this community to manage their stress. Co-leading this workshop with me is a caregiver herself named Drew Ramdeen. Drew and I met in early 2018 at a workshop to learn about how we can better respond to our family members' challenging behaviors. In one of our conversations, she shared with me that she wanted to teach the power of meditation to other caregivers. And after 22 months, our vision became a reality. Our event took place on November 18th at the Bronx Developmental Disabilities Office and was inspired by the You Are Here engagement model, which which aims to thicken the relationship between family members, or community members and institutions. One workshop attendee told us her way of distressing was by drawing warm water into a bath and sinking into it like a tube. Another attendee was so moved to tears, she shared with us that Drew's closed-eyed guided meditation took her back to a time where she had taken a solo trip to Mexico City about 6 or 7 years ago. Since joining the social journalism program, I've shifted my thinking of people in communities from sources to collaborators. 85% of people said that they would recommend our workshop to a friend, and on nearly every feedback form, caregivers said that they had felt an increased state of calmness. This program has also empowered me to experiment with new technologies. This semester, I produced my first 360-degree video showing a day in the life of Drew as she enjoys intimate moments with her son, Fabian, at home. Fabian is 16 and lives with autism. My intention for bringing this video to the community event was to help generate a conversation around our mental health. So I brought everything, or so I thought I did. I brought cardboard headsets, I brought headphones, so caregivers could experience this nonfiction form of immersive technology. But one thing that I forgot to bring is an adapter. So using community spaces to host your events are an excellent way to meet people where they are, but just know the limitations of where you are as well. So this is a side project. I also believe that journalism is about building bridges between communities who have traditionally been at odds. Recently, I sat down and facilitated a very long conversation with 5 Eritreans and Ethiopians about the dynamics of our communities in the diaspora. And here's a little bit about what they had to say.
I remember being 5 years old in Ethiopia and getting bombed.
I was in my early 20s, I believe, when I heard the word for the first time towards me.
A white student referred to a black student as the N-word, but instead of referring to it as the N-word, the staff member chose to say.
I kind of needed to get back on something about our parents because I have to defend my mom for a little bit.
I think I was about 15 or 16 when I dated this guy, so she was fine with me having a boyfriend, but I could tell that she wasn't okay with me dating outside of the community.
With prompts, I carefully wanted to make sure that participants were talking about their experiences over their opinions. And here are some of the themes that emerged from our conversation. One last bit, some of the hardest stories to tell are the ones about ourselves. What started out as a class assignment in Meredith Bennett Smith's class led to me winning the first Excellence in Student Journalism Award for a personal essay titled No Plan for Danielle. In the story, I talk about coming to grips with potentially being my brother's sole and primary caregiver someday. And after the story was published, I began sharing copies with other caregivers to share a little bit about my background. And I realized that this story serves as an empathy generator for families who are not familiar with the sibling experience. As social journalists, we get to give a little of ourselves to gain a lot from our community. That could be trust, and it could also be respect. Here's my social if anyone wants to ask questions about my project. Thank you.